We want to start out by apologizing to the folks in television land. We didn't realize that the camera guy was asleep at the switch. But now that we have him awake, we've missed the first part of the meeting. Just by a quick review, we gave a one-day license to Holy Ghost Park. There was a used car license for 639 Rogers Street. We continued that.
That was continued, right?
There was a used car license for 147 Cambridge Street. We granted that. There was a gentleman who lives in Lowell, works in Lowell, owns a home here, and came back to Lowell and wants to go back into business, so based on his past performance. We reviewed the alcohol licenses that were renewable in November. There was a late application by Super Bowl Restaurant, which they were looking to get their license renewed. The board chose not to renew the license for the fact that they've been a constant problem. We've had many, they've been here before us quite a few times. We've tried working with them, and it's never risen to the level that that any of us felt that we should have closed them. But we do believe that where he was so lax as to let the license lapse over the November period, that it was time to take advantage of that, and so we chose not to renew his license. The next on the agenda would be read by the secretary.
A motion by the Commissioner Raymond Weicker to review conditions for holding a public hearing on scheduling meetings of the Lowell License Commission.
All right, I'll start. I guess the last meeting, probably about, within like the half hour or so before the commencement of the last meeting, we got a flurry of phone calls about the time of the meeting and changing it. Apparently, there had been a motion that had been brought in front of the city council. Nobody from the commission was notified that this issue was being discussed. No input was solicited from us, and while we wanted to discuss this at the last meeting, the open meeting laws prevent us from doing anything or putting anything on the calendar without posting it 48 hours in advance. So a half-hour notice was not sufficient to discuss it at the last meeting. I guess there was a request for changing of the time, and I guess this blurs into the next item on the agenda as well. But before we talk about changing time, I guess I have some questions, and I'll ask him. You might know, police department, I know nobody here from the law department to answer questions, but first, if in the event we do change the time and we don't meet during normal business hours, what effect does that have on the cost of doing the meetings as far as comp time or overtime for city employees who have to attend or attend and give testimony? Who do we ask about that, and who do we get to give us a firm commitment that the police department will budget for the overtime for people to come in and testify, that comp time will be made available to any city employees who have to attend under the contract? But I mean, we need a commitment to that before we can discuss moving outside of normal business hours. I mean, we're unlike a lot of other organizations in that we have regular full-time people here as well as part-time people. And two, I guess, why don't we open it up and ask for input from
The licensees, the people, the business people.
Yeah.
The licensees, the business people that this is going to affect.
Yeah.
The business people that pay the higher tax rate because they're in business, and why we're going to be taking them out of their place of business at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening to attend a meeting.
I mean, I'll tell you, I'm a little uncomfortable with the idea of telling liquor license holders not to be minding the shop during the time people are drinking over dinner. I'm kind of concerned about that. I think it's a safety risk, but again, I'm open to the suggestion. What I'd like to do, and if there's no objection, is at least schedule a hearing on it so that we can invite the public to attend, invite the holders to attend, and I guess I think that's probably the best way to do it. I know that this was only spoken of in favor of by a very few people at a city council meeting. And I don't know that we should inconvenience the city in order to accommodate 3 people. But I'd like to look at that, if that's possible. Can we send notification out to, or publish notice in some way? What do you think the best way is to get that out there? Do you have any suggestions, Mr. Nguyen?
Well, I can notify certainly our licensees who would have business before the licensing board, who are annual licensees,
Okay,
such as the bars and restaurants, to let it be known of the situation. Forever, there's always the possibility that they or their legal counsel will be seeking to make changes, transfer licenses, matters that normally would require a legal notice to be published in the local newspaper in order to let it be known to the public, as well as, in some instances, the property owners touching in any church, school, or hospital within 500 feet. So for them, they can be certainly sent notice
Okay.
of that. I have contact list of the a dozen or more neighborhood groups and their representatives. I was just given an updated list yesterday to inform them of this public meeting,
okay,
to seek their input. I'm not so sure beyond the, that, I don't know this, other than possibly publishing
A notice.
well, the thing is, the notice and the wherewithal to pay for that notice is not necessarily readily available that I'm aware of. I mean, there is, if I can just speak on the matter of what is called, as I understand it to be, and I could be way off base on this, so this would be deferred to the auditor, but the fact is, there is money that I collect from applicants who have to have legal notices published, and it's $175 for every legal notice that's scheduled to be published. The applicant has to pay that amount. From that, the payment to the Lowell Sun newspaper is made, and that's managed by way of the city auditor, that office. There is, on various times, money that's left over, if you will, that a legal notice doesn't necessarily cost $175, but it will cost over $100. So there may be small amounts of money that have built up that I have no,
we call that like a slush.
I have no tally
It's
on.
not a slush fund, is it?
I have no tally
Oh,
on
God,
it. I have
help
no
us.
way of telling you that there's X amount of dollars there to cover the cost.
Yeah, a Lowell Sun slush fund?
Yeah.
So with that money might be.
Well, why don't we make a motion
Yeah.
to put an ad in the paper for it, if the funds are available, saying that, you know, we do want the input. You know, I think it's, you know, we make all kinds of decisions up here. We sit, you know, and pass judgment on these people. You know, and bottom line, we're working for these people. We're working for the citizens of Lowell. And I'll say more about that
Yeah.
when my turn comes to speak, but I think we can, I'd put that as a form of a motion, that the appropriate ad is placed in the paper, advertising a public hearing to discuss the meeting
Yeah.
times.
I mean, obviously, we want to get input. And like I said, if we had gotten a little advance notice, we could have had that scheduled for today, but it kind of got dropped on us last minute, and we couldn't even make the motion to have it for today. So, I mean, that's where I think we should go with this. I think we should at least get some public input, and looking at a date and time. I'd like to get some input from the license holders as well. I mean, I know, like, we just had a guy in here earlier who came in for a used car license. The application's not subject to public comment, but if he had been coming at night, his attorney would have been charging him a premium for what are called overtime hours, any hours that are past normal business hours. So I know it would have driven up his expense by 25%. So that's pretty much standard in the industry,
Is it?
especially when we're billing you, Wally. But
I think I'd be more comfortable speaking if we address the next item on the agenda, and then
All right.
because I think it all is
All tied
encompassing.
together, yep,
All right.
okay. Next item on the agenda, if you'd read it, please.
Well, there is the communication from
From
the
the
city
s-
managers
right.
to the license commissioners regarding the city council motion, regarding the implementation of change in hours of license commission meetings.
All right, well, I'd like to address this.
Okay.
The first issue I have is, we sit here on this board, and we're here twice a month on Thursday afternoons at 3 PM, and we're always here, and we have the meetings. And there was a motion filed by a city councilor to change the meeting times. And then there was a letter from the city manager requesting that we change the times. But at no time did the city council or the city manager approach us and see if those times would be good for us, or our input on it. It was just made, second, and said, you're changing. And I think that, and as Commissioner Weicker said previously, the lack of communication between the various entities in the city relative to this meeting time has, turned me off a little bit as to, the communication in the city of Lowell government. But, contrary to what has been written in the paper, I'm not 100% opposed to a change in time. I just think it needs to be a mutual agreement. The next item is that it is my understanding in reading City Manager Lynch's letter that he's the director of the facilities of the City of Lowell. And he said that he has made available these city council chambers on Monday nights at 6:30 PM. Now, he says in his letter to us that Massachusetts General Open Meeting Laws, I'm not sure if that's the actual name of the open meeting laws, but I understand what he's doing. It says that our current practices fall far from the norm. Indeed, so far as I am aware, nearly every other community in the Commonwealth holds such license commission meetings in the late afternoon or more typically in the early evening hours. Well, that's just not true, because in the Commonwealth, if you're a town, the selectmen handle the licenses. And in cities, a license commission, designated by the city manager, handles the license, which is us. Now, cities that we're comparable to in terms of licenses, Boston's its own entity, but they meet at 10 a.m., 3 days a week. Now, a city like Worcester, which has a university, a state university, has many restaurants and bars, and is more similar in population to the city of Lowell, would be a comparable city. They meet in the mornings at 10 a.m. Okay? So our meeting time at 3 p.m. during business hours, I don't think is outside of the normal conduction of business for license commissions throughout the Commonwealth. The next issue is, in terms of getting license holders out of their establishments at 6:30 p.m. at night, I don't think it's a great idea, but I don't think it's a terrible idea. We'd have to examine it further. The third thing that troubles me is that under the, the third thing that frustrates me, I should say, is that, I lost my train of thought. Just give me 1 second. Is that, the open meeting laws are supposed to provide transparency for city government, town government, allow the public to participate, allow them to be aware of what's going on in the city of Lowell. Now, according to City Manager Lynch, the city council chambers will be available on Monday nights. Now, in my review of the City of Lowell calendar, every Monday night, save 2 or 3 throughout the year, there is either a planning board meeting or a zoning board meeting. The other Monday nights are holidays. So now, if we have two meetings scheduled at 6:30 PM in the city council chamber, only one of them is gonna be on television. So that, whether it's us, the zoning board, the planning board, we're gonna be seen on television, we're gonna be open to the public. The other meeting is gonna be relegated maybe to the mayor's reception room. Now, it's still open to the public, but it's not broadcast on television. There's a lot of elderly residents of the city of Lowell that prefer to watch these meetings on television, and they will not be able to watch it. Maybe they think the License Commission should be on television, but that'll prevent the zoning board or planning board from being on TV. So those are the issues that I have with just saying we're moving to 6:30 PM. I feel that in an attempt to be more transparent, we're blocking it, transparency for another entity within the city. But like I said, I'm not opposed if that's what the other commissioners and the public and the manager and the city council think that we should do, but I think we should gauge that. And just looking at the calendar, if you look at the city calendar, the next available meeting date on a Monday night is January 30th. So that will be over a month before our next meeting, if we meet at 6:30 PM on a Monday night. The Monday after that is April 30th. So that's, 3 months between available Monday evening meeting times. So if that's what the city manager wants, if that's what the city council wants, if that's what the public wants, I'll be happy to do it. But I think in the function of the License Commission, we're here to serve not only the public, but the license holders of the city. And if someone has a new application for a license, and they want to open up a restaurant in the city, and they have to wait a month and a half, 2 months to have their hearing, I think there might be some issues. So, I was prepared to make the motion that our next meeting be January 30th at 6:30 PM here at the city council chambers, because that's the next available Monday night. So I'll make that in the form of a motion. Where it goes from there, I don't know.
I'd actually want to maybe speak for a minute, and I may ask to amend your motion. I agree with you, and I'm concerned because I don't think that whoever drafted this letter for the manager actually looked at the calendar, or else they would realize that we'd only be meeting 3 times next year if we're meeting Monday nights. I also think that whoever drafted the letter didn't read the open meeting laws before they wrote the line that says that they encourage meetings to be held at times convenient for attendance and participation, because they actually state specifically that they have to be open to members of the public, and they require that they have to be available to be recorded at the request of any member of the public. All right, so the idea of putting 2 supposedly open meetings in conflicting time slots where they're not available to be recorded would actually violate the open meeting laws. So I don't think that whoever wrote that for the manager read the law before they wrote the statement. It sounds great on paper, but it's not an accurate statement of the law. So whoever drafted that probably needs to open up the rules and take a look at them. The idea is that open meetings are supposed to be available to be recorded, which is what we do, which is why they're held in this room. It's the same reason that the planning board's held in this room, same meeting. City council's held in this room. There are reasons that the cameras are in this room, and so you can record them in compliance with the open meeting laws and further open government. So I think the idea of saying, look, either meet 3 times a year or, violate the open meeting laws by not making meetings available for recording is probably not well thought out. We could look at other nights. I'm not opposed to moving them. I'm going to say from a personal perspective, I take time off from work. These 2 Thursdays a month, as I know both of my fellow commissioners, well, at least one of my fellow commissioners does. Okay, but other guy's been retired since our last pope, I think. But in any event, so yes, I understand that the convenience. Personally, yes. Would it be financially advantageous for us to meet at a different time? Well, maybe personally it would be. The question is, what's in the best interest of the city? What's in the best interest of regulating these licenses? What's in the best interest of the bottom line here? So, If you ask me on a personal note, yeah, I think it's a great idea to move the meetings. It will make me money every, month. But I'd like to see what the city has to say about it. I'd like to see what the residents, I'd like to see what the people that we have to work with have to say about it, because I think that we should be looking at the other issues. And is it going to cost us more money to hold the meetings later? Are we going to have to give out enough comp time that we have people taking a day off in order to attend a meeting at night? Because I think under the rules, it's 1.5 or 2 hours of comp time per hour of meeting outside of normal business hours. So that's actually a significant cost when you add it up over the year. It's a few $1,000s. So as long as we have a commitment to that money, I'm more than willing to look at that. So I guess.
Yeah, but
But if we want to have the, if we want to have the hearing and we want to have people input it, I know that we could go with that meeting in, I guess the only Monday available is January 30th for evening. But is there any reason that we couldn't still have a January 12th meeting?
Well, that's
for
what
that
we should
specific
do.
purpose?
I'm not going to second your motion. I'm going to say that we'll meet on January 12th on Thursday, hopefully have the ads and the letters out and have a public hearing to that effect. I think that, if I may, just to interject, the last people, government thinks about it, the last people is the taxpayer. I mean, obviously, okay? The worst thing in the world here is all of a sudden we're going after people that are in business, like as I said before, paying the big taxes, the business tax rate, and we're going to inconvenience them as much as we possibly can. A license meeting in the afternoon at 3 o'clock, and we've done this ever since I've been on the board. Number one is, it gets all the people out who haven't got anything else to do. So we're going to stop meeting in the evening, and you're going to get the same old 3 or 4 people that are going to show up at the meeting. We want the people to show up at the meeting that are genuinely and sincerely concerned, people that have an interest in it, and people that have a reason for being here. If you go out to some of these neighborhood meetings, and I've done it, I was one of the original people involved with Crime Stoppers. You would go around and talk to the various groups. The same 4 or 5 people meet every month. The rest of the people sit back and let them 4 or 5 take the lead and then complain if something doesn't go right. We've been doing this, as I said, since I've been here. We've had some tremendous issues with the Dubliner and places in downtown Lowell here. And when there is an issue of that nature, this hall is packed. We've had the balcony packed. When there's an issue of concern or quality of life or public safety. And we have to keep it to that standard. We have to keep it to that standard. The phone rang my house one night, woman screaming, they're out drinking down on Market Street, I drove down, the guy's got a Coke and he's walking down the street with a bottle. I'm thinking to myself, what, am I going crazy here? The point behind the thing is that we have to keep it to legitimate concerns in that nature. Do I want to swap from 3 o'clock? No, I'll tell you why. I'd rather be home than with my grandson than sitting here with you guys, okay? Yeah. But
That's not okay.
that being said, we have never had a problem when it has come to either having the police come in to testify or having a public hearing where people came in to voice their opinion. And I go with Commissioner Occasion. We all talk about Lowell is a destination city. Well, these cities meet, not these towns. The towns have the selectmen. They do it in their normal course of business. They don't have a separate board that handles that. So they do it during their normal course of business. All right? We do it on our own, so as to speak. We're the board, we're the ones that make these decisions. And I just can't see it. I don't think that, if the manager wants to put us down in the basement somewhere or something, he controls the building, God bless him, it's his building. We can meet in the broom closet over there on the corner just as well. That's his decision to make. I don't think to accommodate us here in the council chambers is that big a deal. I think it's gone along very, very well. Yeah, most of us know that what's the commission that meets down in the mayor's room? The handicap?
Commission on Disabilities.
Commission on Disabilities. Okay, they meet down in the mayor's room. They're not publicized, but we've had other times where we've had to move this meeting to another room for a time. People say, how come you weren't on television? I don't know. They moved us to another room. I'll go to the other room. But I think that the meetings have been decided that, and myself, I'm not that crazy about the idea of changing. So I definitely want a public hearing with public input from the people that own the bars and the restaurants and the one-day licenses, if there are people there that, think it's going to be more convenient to do this at night rather than come before us in the afternoon, so be it. But I want to hear from them first. I'm sorry, I have a really hard time with 3 people. One is at every single meeting that the city ever has.
Sitting right
One in
here.
particular, he's sitting here now. Okay?
It's obviously
Anne Marie
convenient for him.
Page was the second one. It was a night meeting, but she was too busy. She couldn't make the meeting. She sent somebody to represent her,
She makes our day meetings.
okay? And then it was the gentleman from Downtown Business Association, and he's not even here today. Hello? Okay, now, one businessman spoke. Everybody just, so I make a motion, we have our next meeting on January 12th, same time, same place, 3 o'clock, and, go advertise and send out a letter.
I guess my only concern with that is the facility going to be available for us? That's my
Well, if it isn't, we'll
question.
be locked out. No problem at all. I'll be here at 3 o'clock. If it's locked, it's locked. We'll hold it out in the hallway. No problem at all.
And, I'll just put on.
I know that you guys change this. Now, what gets me here too is nobody's considering the fact, yes, I am semi-retired. I can kind of name my own hours and come and go as I please. These guys can't. This guy's rushing off from court today, sent us an email, if I'm right, that said he would be late today. He got it cut short and got here on time. This guy rearranges his hours so he can be here. Okay? They've got families, they've got children, they've got wives. Somebody ought to be a little bit considerate about, hey, maybe they'd rather be home with their wife and kids too. I'm not trying to say that that should be the sole consideration, but it should be a consideration. As much of it, if people think it's so important to be a consideration as to when we meet.
And you also could keep in mind the fact that the nominal amount that you receive for your time spent is $100 a month.
Not even that. That's true.
But-
I don't think anybody here did it for the money.
No, but that's not one of the 3 of us do it for the money. We do it for public service, to serve
Yeah.
the city of Lowell, so.
And, I think that if you took the whole overall record of this board over the years that we've all been together, I think we've done a pretty good job. I know there's some that want to go out and murder people and shut everything in the city down so it's nice and quiet and all that. Well, that's not what it's all about. It's all about business. And the downtown area was zoned for business. And we have to try to work with them and work with the people. But there has to be a reasonable understanding on both sides. And the businessman is the guy that's taking the beating. Now we're talking about inconveniencing him even more. If he's in trouble, he'll be here. If a complaint comes down against the barroom, he'll be here.
If I may just interject now, we do have a communication from the superintendent of police against one of our downtown licensees, Hager Corporation, doing business as Olay Restaurant and Tapas Bar at 76 Merrimack Street. There had been an incident recently. We have the official complaint from the superintendent. That's a matter for the board to set a hearing date.
I guess before we get to that, I guess we got to figure out when our next hearing date is, if we're going to go with the 12th or the 30th, because
We're gonna,
if we go with the 30th, then we're not
Right,
going
no,
to have a
we're
next
going
meeting
with the
until
12th.
April, so.
I make a motion, we go with the 12th at 3 o'clock. Let's stop kicking the ball around. We're going with,
I'll second the
I
motion.
got a second on the motion. All in favor, say yes.
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 All right, then I'll
We're
make a
going with the
motion.
12th at 3 o'clock. Write the city manager a letter. I'll sign it. Just say, you know, we've had a meeting, we've discussed it. We're going to have a public hearing and tell them what we're going to do, and that up until that point, we'll be meeting at 3 o'clock on the 12th. And then if he wants to lock the door, God bless him.
I'll also make a motion to put the, to bring Haga Corp. In for the 12th with the notice.
I'll second it.
It's sufficient to cover the 14 days.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Just because I know that we're going to be well,
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
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 That it? Anything else you can think of?
It's all.
And hopefully, maybe we can get answers to those questions on the costs and the, you know, affirmative response of a commitment for the funding of overtime or comp time by that next date. Who do we talk to on that, do you think?
Well, I have to go through my department head, which is the city solicitor.
Okay.
Bring it to their attention in the form of the written communication, as you've just mentioned.
Could you do that on behalf of the commission so that we can get a written response, a commitment? I mean, we'd hate to have the meetings and not have you available, is kind of what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be a timely response,
Okay?
as in every manner that is handled, they always try to.
And I mean, I don't even know if that information is within our jurisdiction as to when, because, you know, we kind of sit in,
Yeah.
we're not judges, but we kind of sit in judgment. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's more of a policy decision, but it would be interesting to know
Yeah.
what it is. And if it doesn't, if we don't have any input on that, that's fine, but at least we'll be fully informed.
At least
There's
we
no
would
such
have, at
thing
least
as-
we would have tried.
Yeah, there's no such thing as too much information.
Exactly.
Right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
We're coming home, Benjamin.